I'm delighted to be joined on the Alternative Show today by the Blackwall. They're here to chat about the band and play us some songs. Hello, how are you?
Hello, Chris. We're great.
Hello, Chris.
To start us off then, can you tell us where you're based, who's in the band and what everyone does in it?
Okay, so it is the two of us, me and Alex. And I'm in the guitars, Alex plays the bass. We sort of switch turns in when it comes to vocals, so we're both doing vocals, lead and backing. And then when it comes to drums and percussions, for now we're using programming. We are playing with a few drummers, but none is an official member yet. We're just rehearsing, scheduling some live shows, etc., but no drummer as of yet, but we have plans to recruit one officially.
Okay, sounds good. How did it all start? Where did you meet and how did the band come about?
It started during the first quarantine. Okay, it's a little bit cliché. I'm friends with George since childhood. Okay, he came up to me with some riffs, some song ideas, and I said to him, "Why don't we start a proper band? Maybe someone will join us in the way." So we started recording some riffs, some drums, some vocals. It all came up as an idea and then became the Blackwall as it is right now.
So we've been playing together since childhood, really. Like, we are childhood friends. We got into music together, into rock and later heavy metal. So we kind of were starting bands, and then it was slipping off, and then we do some other thing. And then I moved to the UK. Alex stayed in Greece. We kind of, of course, we're very close friends, but we didn't play music together anymore. He was doing some stuff, as far as I know, like rehearsing some people. I wasn't doing a proper band thing. And then at some point during the quarantine, really, as during the lockdown, as Alex mentioned, I got a little home studio and started recording some songs that I had written. And when I had some demos, I called him and said, "Look, I've got a few songs. I organized a little home studio in my bedroom." He said, "I've done the same. I have a home studio. I have a few songs. Why don't we do this again? But this time do it in a proper way, not just rehearse a few times and then forget about it. Let's just try and make demos, just do it the proper way and reach out for some professional production to our music, some professional layout." And one thing led to another. We started engaging more and more into it. We found some common ground in our influences and the songs we're writing, and everybody was adding new stuff. So one thing led to another, and here we are now with a band called the Blackwall.
Okay, well, on that subject, who thought of the name the Blackwall and why did you choose it?
That was my idea.
That is all on George, I'm afraid.
Yeah. So when I started writing songs for that band, it was back in the Halloween of 2019. So I was never a very big fan of Halloween, but that particular night, I had the idea of carving some pumpkins into jack-o'-lanterns and lighting them up, watching some Tim Burton, Sleepy Hollow movies, that type of stuff, and listening to that type. And I thought, okay, maybe I'll kind of write a few songs like that and make it sound a bit spooky and all. So because I had started the whole idea back in that place where I used to live back then in Blackwall, London, that's an area in East London, I thought, let's honor that place and name it the Blackwall. And I didn't choose Blackwall, I chose the Blackwall because I really like the old 60s bands, the King, the Velvet Underground, Rolling Stones, the Beatles, all these kinds of things. I thought, let's do the Blackwall to sound a bit vintage. And Alex initially, correct me if I'm wrong, but he wasn't a very big fan of the name. He said it reminded him kind of the wall in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's the first thing that came to mind. Okay, I'm Jon Snow or something.
But it never really struck me like that. Anyway, so I said, okay, I propose this name. If you have a better idea, I'm open. And then when I thought that we're still looking for a name, all of a sudden he designed the logo. Alex designed the logo of the Blackwall, which I really, really liked. I thought it was amazing. So
Actually, it wasn't just a logo. It was 7 or 8. I remember correctly.
yeah, 7, 8 versions.
7, 8 different logos, and we came up to the ones we used, the one we use today.
Yeah, Alex is very, very good in doing sketches and graphic design, those kind of things. So Blackwall used to be like a massive wall that was stopping the river from getting into the canals in Canary Wharf, because it used to be like a port for the West Indies Corporation, East Indies. It was a kind of a docks, really, to store the goods that were importing from India.
Okay, you've got 3 songs to play for us tonight. What's your first song choice and why have you chosen it?
If you agree, Alex, we can start with Spooky Stories. It's like a flagship song from the first release, like a EP of 3 songs, and we kind of use that to transmit the mood to the audience of what we're trying to do. So yeah, Spooky Stories it is.
Sounds when you're on your bed. Tell me, little boy, do you like scary stories? But when it's getting dark, do you need your mom? Telling spooky stories. Are done. There is no other world, because there is no God. Telling spooky stories, telling spooky stories, telling spooky stories. It's all lies.
How would you describe the band's sound?
It's kind of a combination of my influences and Alex's influences. Just try to find some common ground. Personally, I'm a lot into prog rock, of the 70s. So I kind of wanted the band to have like references to this era, and typically just have this spooky feeling in our music. So the way to achieve that is we're using acoustic guitars, and we're following some scales that sound a bit dark, like Hungarian minor or melodic minor scales, just to give that spooky feeling into our songs. There's changes, shifts of dynamics between distorted guitars, some acoustics, but we're not just really trying to do it the way that the 70s prog bands used to do it, like writing very long compositions. And Alex really likes to keep them short and to the point, and not mumbling around. Really.
It's like a modernized 70s rock. All of these things that we listened as kids and even as adults.
Yeah, it's a melting pot of our influences, really. But we're not keeping it too long as progressive bands used to do. Like, we're not doing like 10 minutes, 20 minute songs like they used to do in the 70s. We're like keeping it short, like 4-minute songs, just trying to stuff it all in. Yeah, that kind of stuff, really. And when it comes to bass, Alex just say that we do pay a lot of attention. Like, we don't want to have like a typical approach of a heavy metal band when it comes to bass. We don't want to dig it. We want it to be like really distinctive in the mix. And Alex is typically coming up with unexpected bass lines. At least it sounds to me like to myself like that. We are paying attention to it. We just don't want to sound like it does in most metal bands.
Yeah, many heavy metal bands or hard rock even, they keep the bass a little bit lower than the guitars, for example, or the drums. We like to have it equal to the others, okay, to be distinctive. You know, you can hear the bass. So yeah, that's another thing that distinguishes us from heavy metal, for example, heavy metal bands.
Yeah, but we have other type of songs that you wouldn't describe as heavy metal, really, like more rocky stuff and ballad type of songs. But the common ground in all of those is it has to sound like a bit dark, like using those scales, like kind of bleak atmospheres and all. Not that we are like that as people, really, but quite the opposite.
Just for our songs only.
When it comes to music, I don't know, for some weird reason, I'm more attracted to those type of things, like bleak and sad a little bit. Anyway, yeah, that's a description, at least from our perspective.
Just touching on the bass sound, have you got a particular bass guitar you use or type of sound?
Not a particular. To be honest, I switch basses depending on the song. You know, if it's something more heavy, I'll took up the overdrive a little bit gain, sound more aggressive. I have a PJ bass, so I switch between the pickups. I don't have a particular sound. I like to be able to fit in the song properly.
Okay, perfect. What's the songwriting process for the band?
Typically someone, either of us, comes with an idea, a riff maybe, or some vocal line that we actually like, and kind of pitch it to the other one. So here I'm with this riff or this vocal line, okay, maybe we'll add some drum parts to it. Okay, and then we add some other stuff that we have previously recorded or have in mind. Or maybe sometimes we get to a video call or in live and play together and kind of connect the parts together.
Something might come up.
Yeah,
I think there's really 3 ways that we're doing it. Either I write a song and like come up with most of it, parts, the musical parts, lyrics and all, and then I bring it to Alex and we kind of finish it together. Or he starts off a song and he does the whole thing, music, lyrics, guitars, bass, everything, and then he brings it up to me and like give my opinion, like change a few things maybe, or we would just have like a few parts, like I have a riff, and here's a vocal line, or the other way around, and we sort of try to combine them together. I think that's the main three ways of doing it. When we are together, like we could be playing, like rehearsing, and something might come up, but mostly it's what I said, like both write on our own and then bring it to the other one and finish together. But I don't think there was ever a case that someone came up with a song and it didn't get altered at least a little bit from the other, and we're both very open. We both trust each other a lot. Like if I bring him something, and I'm a bit stubborn about a part, and he says, "Look, man, like you need to take a step back. I know you like it, but there's this and this reason why I think it shouldn't work." So we're always very open-minded and trusting the other in contributing and changing a few things if necessary. And I think it has worked for the best so far. So yeah, that's the typical approach.
Okay. Do your songs have any consistent lyrical themes?
My lyrics do. So kind of, really. So not always, but in 90% of the cases, I'm just following the atmosphere of the music, just writing down some spooky lyrics, a little bit, like kind of trying to reminisce the atmosphere, like a Tim Burton movie, maybe. But like I don't want my lyrics to be like there's a horror story and there's a killer or there's a monster at the end of it. I don't like that type of movies. I don't like that type of atmosphere. So I wanted to be a bit more psychological. So like kind of with my lyrics describing like a spooky scenario or a spooky atmosphere, etc. And then the monster at the end of it, it's not like a real monster. It could be like something more psychological, like a realization that life is futile or something like that. So that's kind of the spookiest thing that comes to my mind. But yeah, when it's not that dull as I described it right now, the whole thing. So we are just trying to have some deeper lyrics at times.
We're not having any love songs for the moment.
No, we don't have love songs. But there is hidden meanings sometimes for social matters, the struggles that somebody could have. But so like most of the lyrics that we're using is metaphors, something deeper. Anyway, yeah, and trying to make them like sound as beautiful as we can. It's stealing a few lines from poetry over here and there. Like I found inspiration in literature from British authors like Virginia Woolf, for example, John Milton, a recent one. Yeah, but Alex, you're also writing lyrics, so what's your inspiration?
When I write lyrics, I tend to think of human feelings mostly. That's my thing. Rather than spooky stuff, I try to blend them together just to be a little bit more consistent to the other songs, because George writes most of our lyrics.
Mm. At least for now.
At least for now.
It might change.
You write better lyrics, George. I'm sorry. You have to continue.
Thanks.
How did the cover for the Blackwall EP come about?
Oh, well, that's a funny story. So when we did this first EP, we're just trying to approach everything a bit professionally, like having somebody very well established to do the mixing of the songs and the mastering and this kinds of stuff. So I was thinking we could just do something similar for the cover. And for some of our favorite bands of the early 2000s, maybe late 90s, like Opeth, Catatonia, some I think Overkill, Megadeth records. There was an emerging artist from California called Travis Smith that did really, really good covers for those bands and made a name for himself. So we had those. His art was really we grew up listening to records that had covers done by him. So I really liked his type of style. He has this, at least for the covers he's done for the bands alike. He has this kind of a little
bit dark, I think.
Dark themes, a little bit bleak and kind of creepy at times. So I did approach him via an email, explain the situation, like we are a new band, we're an amateur band, but we're interested to see if something could work for us. And he had a very, very busy schedule, so we wanted the cover to be done in a few months' time, but he was packed with work for other major bands, so he didn't have the time to create something from scratch. But I explained to him look, we have this Halloween vibe, this spooky kind of feeling to our songs, and he had a nice artistic creation of a jack-o'-lantern. I think he carved a pumpkin and he took a photo and then he redesigned it digitally and he made it look really, really nice. But I wanted to add a few more things over there. I wanted some LPs, some scratch type of LPs to be left next to the jack-o'-lantern to make it look, the whole thing, a bit more vintage, with the old records and the pumpkin over there. But he didn't have any LPs. So he asked me, can you take a photo yourself and send it to me? So I went back to my garden. I was in Greece at the time for holiday. So I took a few records, a Black Sabbath record, some King Crimson, I can't remember, and put it in over there in my garden, over the grass. I got some dried leaves to make it look like an autumn scenery. Took a picture, sent it to him. He redesigned it digitally and he merged the pictures together. He made it look really, really nice. So it's kind of a funny story.
It's a great story. It's a great cover too.
Yeah, I do like it as well. The next one, maybe Alex might design something because he's really good as well.
No.
Yeah, but he's done the logo on the cover is done by Alex.
Okay, which recording studio do you currently use?
Yeah, for this EP, we kind of used a few places. As I said, we're doing guitars and bass on our home studios, really. We got the necessary equipment, good sound cards, etc. We got our gear, so we can record good quality sounding guitars and bass. And then when it comes to the vocals, we went to a studio in Greece where Alex, in a city that Alex used to live. Was it last year? Yeah. So yeah, we did the vocals over there, and then for mixing and mastering, we sent it to a Finnish producer called Hili Hilesma. He's very well known for doing rock and metal records in the early 2000s for bands like Him and Sentence and Amorphis. So he's a legend for Finnish heavy metal. We kind of came to an agreement. He did the mixing and mastering at the famous Finnvox studios in Helsinki.
Okay.
It's a bit of a combination. Alex,
nowadays the modern approach is to record most of the stuff at your home studio and then send it to a producer to mix them, and maybe some of the vocals or some details on the tracks you can do them on a studio, because studios charge by the hour,
Yeah.
It's a lot more expensive money. Yeah.
So I'd love to do it myself, proper bands are doing it. I mean, I know even successful bands nowadays do some stuff in home studios, etc. But I would love us to be like me and Alex and have a proper drummer and be in a studio with a producer that has an opinion and just kind of guide us into doing stuff. I really think that the environment would be very inspiring, and it will help us get our music to the next level, rather than a boring kind of home studio looks like. So I think it would add something to our music. So maybe one day, if we can afford it, and it makes sense to do it this way, I would love to do it.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Have like a proper session, like we have 30 days to do a record. We are in the studio, we're making it. Maybe 30 is a lot these days, but maybe 2 weeks to do a record. We're focusing on that from scratch to finish. I would love that.
What approach do you use when recording?
Yeah, so for myself, like as we've described, we're using this home studio. So typically I would be doing acoustic and electric guitars over here. And of course, it's a different approach depending what part you're going to record. So for acoustics, I'm paying really close attention to how the room sounds, because even the slightest move would change the sound of an acoustic guitar. Like I'm moving a little bit, a few inches, and the whole vibe has changed. So like I've spent a lot of time just trying to find out what is the best approach of recording an acoustic guitar. And I think I finally, for now, I came up with an approach that I think it works. Like using a condenser microphone and standing at a particular distance from it with the guitar, and then just trying to reproduce some natural reverb on the room. Like closing doors, windows, all type of things. When it comes to electric guitars, I think that's kind of the same for bass. Just paying attention to a few details like levels, this type of stuff. But yeah, other than that, it's regular. And for vocals, when we did record those 3 songs, we had a producer helping us a little bit, because none of us is a professional singer. So in the lack of having a professional singer really in the band, we are forced to do the vocals. So we had somebody helping us a little bit, make it sound slightly better, and he had some knowledge of where to place microphones and stuff. Maybe the next time we'll focus a bit more on that, because we didn't do any proper harmonics. As I said, none of us is a professional singer, so we don't know too much about it. And if we ever find a professional singer, but until then, we will try to do the best that we can. Just try to have somebody that knows more than we do, especially for the next one. We want to do a much better job than we did the last time. Yeah, adding all those harmonics and things.
I got a similar approach to recording. Usually we write a demo of the song, a sloppy one, if you like. And then we program the drums first. So we have something like a metronome, okay?
Yeah.
And then we record the guitar parts over the previous lobby ones, the bass, all of it. And in the end, usually we record the vocals. George was honest. We are not professional singers, yeah. But we really like to give our attention now to the vocals, because that's what makes a song pop out, I think, in rock music. The vocals is a very powerful tool. Sometimes we write the vocal line in a guitar or a synthesizer. Sometimes write in harmonies over it with the help of the instruments.
Yeah, like most of the bands, when we have a demo, and we go to the proper recording, we will start with the drums, like having the drums laid out so we can record over them. And then there's a great debate over, are you doing then rhythm guitars and then the bass, or first the bass and then the guitars. In the past, everyone was doing bass first, and that's how I think it should be done. At least I like listening to the bass and the drums when I'm recording guitars. But I think the most modern approach for some bands, especially for metal bands these days, is to do the guitars first and then the bass. Because otherwise, some people say that when they listen to the bass, it's kind of becoming like too heavy to be able to listen to yourself when you're doing guitars. Anyway, there's different approaches. But because I'm doing the guitars and he's doing the bass, if we just want to do it this way, we can just do our parts just by listening to the drum beat. Yeah.
If it's a performance that's captured in the way you want it to be, it will translate itself to the listener. That's how I see it.
I totally agree with you, and I really like the way you put it, because I mean I do know that you're into a lot of type of music and modern music. So, but on the other side, nowadays for heavy metal, the approach for modern metal has switched a lot into making everything sound on the grid and extremely professional, like a robot kind of playing. So I do hate that myself. I don't want to have anything to do with it. So that's why we shifted our focus to the 70s to make everything sound more organic. And even if the performance of any of the instruments or even the vocals, if it's not like completely accurate, it doesn't matter as long as the feeling is being passed to the listener. So that's what we're trying to achieve with our music. Like make it sound more real, more organic, really, than just having everything to the grid, paying attention and having a producer, then editing everything and fixing everything, making it sound perfect. That this is not the approach we want to have.
Okay, we've come to your second song choice tonight. What have you chosen and why have you chosen it?
I think we will go with Python. It's our most dynamic song, most powerful one, I would say.
Yeah, it's the heaviest song we've done so far, with heavy riffs, kind of a hard rock, heavy metal approach, up tempo, the beat, and I think it's like the more heavy side of us. Yeah, it's a good tune.
Okay.
I like it.
So it's Python. Enjoy.
Do you have any plans to perform live?
Right now, we're talking about a couple of shows in Greece late in the summer, maybe early autumn. And then our plan is to schedule a few shows here in the UK to promote what we have produced so far. Maybe do like a few local places in London. Ideally, I want to play a few festivals in Greece towards the end of the summer, and then do a few shows, like a mini sort of tour, like maybe 5-6 shows in the UK early autumn. That would be great. And maybe a few shows in Italy, because our record label is over there, and the promoter can schedule some stuff. That's the plans for now.
If you could play anywhere in the world, in any venue, where would it be?
That's a great question. I don't know. The O2 in Brixton is a really nice venue.
Yeah, it is.
The equivalent one in Chalk Farm as well. There's Roundhouse. It's a good one. Alex, what's your...
Mine's a little bit different and more weird, I think. I would like to be the first band to play on the moon or on Mars. I don't know. That would be awesome. That would be history in the making.
You never told me about it. You had plans to get on the moon.
Yeah.
Please invite me.
That's something that I have thought about. It that would be awesome to perform live on the moon and broadcast it on the Earth. Everyone would see it, even if it's 3 a.m. in the morning.
Okay.
Okay. What's your hope and aspirations for your music?
For now,
play on the moon.
So for now, I think what is reasonable to expect and being down to earth is just trying to have our music spread out as much as we can, paying lots of attention to social media platforms like everybody does these days.
Yeah.
We're just trying to advertise our songs as much as we can with digital marketing lately. So yeah, that's the goal, just to spread out the music as much as we can to a wider audience, build a fan base, and then play shows targeting that fan base, and just try to grow organically as much as we can.
Okay, what's next for the band this year?
Planning to release our LP next month. We're in the process of recording the songs now. Some of them have been already mixed at some point, not all of them. But probably in September, I think we're gonna have our first single out of our new LP.
Yeah, so we're in the process of recording these days. So hopefully, if everything goes well, we'll have everything put into tape, digital tape really, before the end of the summer, like having everything, rhythm parts, lead parts, vocals. And we've kind of finalized a deal with a producer to do the mixing, and we've laid out our plan. I'm not sure whether we'll be able to put out the whole LP before the end of the year, but we're definitely putting new music out. So there's going to be a single sometime late September, I expect, and then ideally we want to be releasing new music every 6 weeks, maybe, sort of, depends. Put out a few singles, like bands do it these days, like maybe 5 singles, 6, it depends. And then putting everything together and a few more songs and have the LP released. I mean, realistically thinking, it's going to be next year, but there's going to be plenty of music out this year as well. So yeah, that's
it's the modern way now to release your songs. It's more efficient to put out a single. It's a month or two rather than release 10 songs at once in an album.
Yeah, they don't get the necessary attention. People nowadays don't listen to whole records from start to finish. I do myself. I still do, but most of the people, at least in the streaming platforms, they don't engage with a record as people used to do in the past, like buying the physical product and then listen to the music while looking at the artwork, the lyrics, and approach it like a conceptual thing from start to finish. This has changed. We do appreciate it. We do understand that there's a shift in the music industry. We're okay with that, and just adapting to the modern approach.
But we're going to release some hard copies too.
Physical.
No, I totally agree with you, George. And it's interesting you mentioned digital tape a minute ago as well, because I've noticed more and more bands are releasing cassette tapes. I think it would add quite nice ambience to yours, and you're almost forced to listen to it all the way through because you don't want the hassle of skipping fast forward on a cassette tape.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I do agree with you totally what you just said.
Yeah, I'm a great fan of vinyl as well. I like the way that you have to listen to the one side and then you have to get up to turn it and all. But the same thing almost happens with a cassette, really, right? And you're forced, as you said, to listen to the whole thing. And I like this old school vibe. Really a big fan. As I said, we have to focus on, we have to adapt to the modern reality, and that's why we're going to be doing all those singles. And then essentially stuff it all together and put the record the way we have imagined it. Like, we didn't write the songs meant to be singles. We wrote the record. We're thinking about it, both me and Alex, like this should be like a unity, a whole thing that starts with this song, ends with this song, and those things fit. Like, we took out a few songs because we didn't think they fit properly, and we kept them for something in the future. So it's approached in the old school way as a record, only it's going to be released following the modern procedure, like doing singles and then the whole thing.
Okay, perfect. What interests or hobbies do either of you have outside of the band?
Okay.
I have to admit, I play a lot of video games in my free time.
Okay.
Besides recording and singing and playing bass, I play a lot of Call of Duty. But to be honest, there is not much. There isn't any free time these days. We have regular jobs as well.
Yeah.
So we have friends and families, and there is very minimum free time to actually do any of hobbies.
Okay, I maybe I have more free time because I have more hobbies. I don't know. So yeah, as Alex said, really, we do have day jobs, and the band is kind of a hobby for us, and it's taking a lot of our free time. Aside of that, I'm just trying to. I have a few other interests, like, as I said, vinyl collecting. So I've been collecting lots of records from the 60s and the 70s in the past few years.
Yeah.
So I've got a collection now. And other from that, I do like sports. Snowboarding is something I do enjoy a lot lately. So I'm just trying to spend as much time as I can during the winter with that.
Yeah.
Traveling as well. I do like traveling. I'm pretty sure Alex is traveling.
Not so much in the past 2 years, really. It was.
In the past 2 years, nobody could.
Yeah, the band is 2 years. It's alive for 2 years.
Indeed, yeah. Another hobby of mine is also chess.
Okay.
That would summarize it for me.
Okay, perfect.
And I have to make a statement now regarding one hobby of George. He broke your arm or your wrist, I think.
No,
during a snowboard, and he couldn't play the guitar for like 2 months, I think. So
maybe more.
That's a hobby that you should stop, George.
It cost.
I say it out loud.
There is Alex now beating me up for that. So yeah. So yeah, I had this accident snowboarding during the winter. I broke my wrist. Had to stay in a plaster for 6 weeks. That was horrible. And obviously, when I took the plaster out, I still couldn't play the guitar, and I was totally terrified for some time. And supposedly, I would need physio, but they didn't book it for me for quite a long time. But I managed to do most of the physio myself and bring it back to what it used to be very, very soon. But yeah, it was. That's not a joke. It was really bad for the band. It took us like a couple of months back because I couldn't record anything really, and then I needed some time to get back in shape. So yeah, maybe I'll do my future snowboarding trips. I will keep them secret. I won't tell Alex about it.
Earlier this week, we asked your followers and fans if they had any questions they'd like me to ask you. I've picked two of them. So Takis has asked, what are your main influences and favourite bands?
Most of our influences are similar, to be honest. We both like Opeth very much. It's a Swedish prog metal band. I'm into more progressive metal, like Dream Theater, Porcupine Tree, Steven Wilson, Riverside, that kind of stuff. George is more on progressive rock side, but we managed to put them together, as we previously said. But I like to listen to a lot of different styles of music. I like funk music. I've been to shows. I not only listen at home. I go to shows also. I listen to pop. I listen to Greek music. Not very often, but I like to keep my ears open to all music. If I like something, then I would listen to it. I don't have any barriers. So that's most of our influences. George?
Yeah, so as Alex said, we grew up listening to the heavy metal scene of the 90s and the early 2000s. I mean, of course, listen to the 80s bands, the legends of the past and all. So influences like Opeth, as he mentioned, and Sentenced, a Finnish band, they're very natural to us. But as we grew older, we kind of became more and more open-minded. And personally, I started getting more influences, a lot from the 70s and the 60s. I became a really massive Beatles fan. I didn't appreciate them in the past as much as I should, and I found myself enjoying the music more and more as I grew older and understanding the depth of it. I mean, also all the prog bands of the 70s, like starting from Pink Floyd, King Crimson, Genesis, yes, and then going to more and more obscure stuff, like bands like Camel, Caravan, and then even more with like Comus, those type of things from the 70s and the 60s, a bit of krautrock and Italian prog rock maybe. But Alex is holding me back when I'm just trying to pull influences from lots of influences of those bands into our music.
There's some
it's
very weird stuff. Very weird stuff. I mean,
yeah, I remember we were driving last summer at some point, and I was playing some weird stuff in the radio. And he said, "Dude, what is this? Just put it out."
that was barely music. What was it? Was it Gentle Giant? I don't remember.
I think
exactly.
it must have been Gentle Giant, and I really like them. I think
Weird
it's
stuff.
more popular. Anyway, yeah, I think the experimentation in the 70s, especially here in the UK, it was immense. There were no barriers at all. That's what I love. I mean, obviously, I do understand you cannot incorporate all of those influences into your music. It's gonna make it sound like a monster, especially if you don't have the musical background to do it. Anyway, but I also have other influences. Like I'm a big fan of the cool jazz of the 50s. Stuff like Dave Brubeck and Dave Brubeck Quartet is one of my favorite jazz bands. Bill Evans, Miles Davis and John Coltrane, of course. So you wouldn't see you wouldn't be able to listen this influence directly into our music, but some of the rhythms we might have taken from those bands a little bit, try to replicate them and all. I mean, the more music you listen to the more it kind of has an impact into your music, even you do realize it or not.
Thank you to Takis for that question. And we got another great question. Sophie wants to know, why don't you have tattoos and long hair like other rock and metal artists do?
I did laugh
That's
a lot when I see
kind
the
of
question.
old school question, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
I mean, it's like a stereotype that no longer exists. Okay, it's like you don't expect a doctor to have tattoos, right? It's the opposite. You expect a musician and or a football player to have tattoos, but nowadays I don't think that's relevant anymore.
We used to have long hair when we were younger.
Yeah.
Not anymore. Alex is a doctor. I work in corporate, so maybe it's not easy to go like with long hair. It's not easy to maintain it. Anyway, as far as the tattoos go, I would say that we haven't earned them yet. We have to become rock stars and then have tattoos. I'm joking.
We were considering, at least I was a few years ago, but then it became massive. At least here in Greece, everyone was getting a tattoo. Everyone. That was 8 years ago, 9. Yeah, it was a very big trend. So it was cooler not to have a tattoo anymore. Yeah.
No, I think
so I didn't.
you only do it if you want to have something. Just do it to show off. Like if something, it means something to you and you want to have it on your body, just do it. But if I would have a tattoo, I would rather have something artistic, something that looks nice. But yeah, I haven't thought about it. At least not lately.
Okay, well, I hope that answered your question, Sophie, if you're listening. Okay, what's your final song choice for us tonight and why have you chosen it?
As a last song, we will choose All Vinyl. So we saved this one for the last because it has been featured in your show, and thanks for that. It's a favorite tune of ours. I do personally like it. I like the atmosphere, and the dynamics, and how it builds up from something really calm into a bit more aggressive, and then ending again in a calm manner. So
And it was, I think, one of our first song to
one of the first ones
to
we
create.
did.
If I remember correctly.
Yeah, that's true. It's probably maybe the first song I sent to Alex back in the days, and we worked on that together later. Anyway, yeah. So honoring our love for vinyl and everything vintage, All Vinyl from the Blackwall.
Enjoy.
Thanks for joining me today. Let's keep in touch. All the best.
Thank you very much, Chris.
We also thank you for your support.
Absolutely. And we are fans of your show. Keep on doing the great job that you're doing, and you're helping us discover more bands and new music. It's great.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for having us.
Thank you. You're very welcome. That was George and Alex from the Blackwall, and this is their latest release, Old Vinyl.
Writing you again. I'm playing this old vinyl, and as it does, unveil its melodies. Oh God, the clock forgets to tick, like doing this on purpose. I look outside, the river never stops. Oh God. trapped in space.